Often simply either modifying the original sock liner that the shoe comes with felt, or often I'll use a good prefab orthotic, so an orthotic that is off the shelf, that if it matches the foot relatively well, it can be easily modified, and modifying it would involve both reducing compression and tension. You can do that you can reduce the compression by doing a pad that extends into the forefoot but has like a cutaway or a deflection sub first. So underneath that first, it's almost like it's got a little cavity to sit in, and we try and then shift more of that weight-bearing pressure around the sesamoids to like second, third, fourth, fifth, and just behind the sesamoids into the distal arch of the foot. And then you can use a thing called a metatarsal dome, and a metatarsal dome is just like this, a dome that essentially sits just behind the forefoot. That can take maybe a little bit of load off the sesamoids. And then the main thing is good contour through the arch can often take some load off. Contact load. So if the arch is taking a bit more weight, then it's just a pressure redistribution thing. So if the arch is now weight bearing, which when it once wasn't, it's taking some of that weight, as well as if that arch profile is stabilizing the foot from rolling in a little bit more than it was without it, you may reduce a little bit of that tensile pulling stress, because every time the arch sort of flattens and lowers, you get a little bit more tension through those tendons and the sesamoids, and that may help as well. So a little bit of mostly pressure redistribution and maybe a little bit of reducing tensile stress through supporting the arch. And often with footwear or with these orthotic insole modifications, it's all about just reducing load to get symptoms down, maybe help them to, if it's at a level they can train through a little bit, then that's great. Or it's just going to allow them to get back running maybe a little bit sooner, maybe allow them to do rehab a little bit easier. And then my goal is always to, at some point, once we've addressed other issues, if there's strength deficits or the shoes with an issue with the shoes, then they can eventually they won't require that sort of extra offloading. Like, it's not going to be a lifelong thing they need because of some structural thing. Often they're injured because of a training load error, or all of a sudden wearing a shoe that their foot wasn't ready to use. And there's obviously some of those cases where really chronic, like, this is one of those conditions where occasionally you'll get someone with sesamoid pain for 3 years, for example, and they're more someone where they might need to be managed with an orthotic long term, because they just find that every time they don't wear it, they just have more symptoms and more issues. So we there's going to be a subcategory of people where we've got to be more mindful with ongoing protection, but that's a very small, I would say that's, a very small percentage of people with sesamoid pain. Often it's just deload, let it recover, and then gradually they can get back to not using orthotics and not being too worried about the footwear that they're using. Hi, my name's Tom Canto. I'm a sports podiatrist and an elite distance runner. And today we're going to be talking about a tricky condition, sesamoiditis, and you're listening on the Physical Performance Show.